I work on the clients team on Elastic, and we are part of the Elasticsearch team. But the clients team is a specific part. We build clients. It doesn't mean we work with clients, with customers. It's we build clients for Elastic products. So when Shai built Elasticsearch, he wanted it to be distributed by design, and also really important was that anyone could use it in any programming language. So Elasticsearch has a REST API, which means any programming language can interact with Elasticsearch with the REST API as long as they do like HTTP. So to make it easier for developers to use Elasticsearch, he also Elastic built clients. So it would be really easy to just download a client, install, and start using Elasticsearch on your programming language. And we now have Ruby, Python, PHP, Java, JavaScript, .NET, Perl, Go, and Rust clients. So our team is like a polyglot dream team of programmers who each one is a specialist on their language, and we build the official Elasticsearch, and we maintain the Elasticsearch clients. I'm not going to go too deep into the clients, the Elasticsearch clients, but I'm going to mention a few things because we have like things in common between the enterprise search and the Elasticsearch clients. So yes, as I said, it's a REST API. So the Elasticsearch client is basically a transport layer. We call it Elasticsearch Transport. It's the HTTP layer of the client. It's in charge of performing the requests and other stuff related to HTTP. And then we have the Elasticsearch API based on this REST API that I mentioned. And there's a spec, a JSON spec that for the REST API. So we write code or we generate code based on that spec, and we together XPack is another part of the API. So this is basically what the clients are: an HTTP transport layer and API code. So this new thing we've been working on is the Elastic Enterprise Search clients. Now, Elastic Enterprise Search, so the whole product is like an umbrella product where you can find different solutions for enterprise. We're going to talk mostly about workplace search and app search. Site search, it's a way of adding search to your site. But we're going to focus on these two solutions. Workplace search, I think it's an amazing product. It's something I wish I had in previous jobs, where like you need to find a document and you had to go through either a wiki or Jira or GitHub, Google Drive. You had so many places where you could have documents like handbooks or whatever. So what Workplace provides you is a unified solution for this. So you have one place where you search for stuff, and the sources of information are fed into Workplace search. So you have one unified search UI for lots of information. So you can add different sources to Workplace, and then you can find stuff from different sources in one unified place. So it's a really good product. Excuse me. And yeah, we use Elastic Workplace Search in Elastic, and it's really cool. And the other product is App Search, which, of course, these are all built on the Elastic Stack. So you have all the advantages of using Elasticsearch and Kibana, and like the products you already know are there. It's just built on top of that. So it's really cool. And App Search provides you like an entire search solution based on engines. So you create like search engines for different stuff, and you just index documents in there. And then you get the whole UI, like the search UI from Elasticsearch. And you get lots of stuff for free, like relevance tuning, analytics, and stuff like that. You get all, like it's a package search experience which you can use, and it's really easy to start using it. And yeah, so those are the two main focuses of the clients. And the idea is that you have your application, that you have your Ruby code or your Python code, and you want to interact with enterprise search, either because you want to index documents or you want to search for stuff that's there. And that's what we what you can do with the clients, right? So going back, and I'm mentioning this, the Elasticsearch transport HTTP layer from the Elasticsearch client. Basically, it's an HTTP library. So this is a really simple example in Ruby where you can just install the gem. Elasticsearch transport is a gem on its own. So the Elasticsearch client has it as a dependency, and you can install it and just make an HTTP request. This is a JSON placeholder. It's like an example website where you can just test HTTP client. And as you can see, you just instantiate the client with the host and perform a request and get the response in JSON. So it's basically an HTTP library, but it's optimized and tested with Elasticsearch. And it's been used on the clients for years. So for the enterprise search clients, what we did is we started, when we started building them, we started like with workplace search, building on top of all the clients that existed. And at some point we decided, let's try, because ideally we wanted to use the HTTP transport layers because they've already been tested and we know they work really well. So we opened branches and we found out it was rather easy to replace what we had as HTTP code with the Elasticsearch transport libraries, both Python and Ruby. And so that's what we ended up doing. We have the transport layer on one side and the different APIs for each of the services. And we just connect everything together, and those are our clients. And the APIs, so the way Elasticsearch has a REST API with a JSON spec, we have open API specs for these three services. So we work together with the enterprise search team. This was a teamwork between the client team and the enterprise search team, building these open API specs and working to improve them. And now the clients are using the open API specs to generate the code. And so if there's an update in the API, we just update the open API spec and the code on the client is updated rather easy. So yeah, I'm going to show you some code, how to, let me know if the font is okay, or if it's too small, I can increase the size a bit.
Looks good to me.
Okay, cool. So what I have here, this is an instance of enterprise search running locally. So if you look at the code, there's a rake task to run the whole stack, so you don't have to worry about downloading or anything. It's based on Docker, so it's just a rake task that uses Docker to run enterprise search. The other thing you can do is use Elastic Cloud, which is really, really easy to just set up. You click on give me an Elasticsearch, an enterprise search instance, and it just builds one for you, and it's really easy to use. And of course, with the clients are tested against local or cloud instances. There's going to be a link in the slides at the end. There's a free trial. You can try the Elastic Cloud enterprise search solution. It's really, really easy to set up. So what we need to do is just require Elastic enterprise search. And then, so as we said, there's three services. There's enterprise search, workplace search, and app search. Enterprise search is like the umbrella server. So it provides a few interesting endpoints for information mostly. So I'm going to create an enterprise search client. And enterprise search uses HTTP basic auth. So we need to pass that in. If we're using the rake task, the default rake task, the user is going to be, Elastic, and the password is change me. This is something you can set up when you run the Docker, the Docker container. So this is the basic endpoint to realize, are we using the right credentials? Is the host right? So we can do client.help and see if everything's working. And as you can see here, the interesting thing is the response is a response object from the transport library. So you can check, let's say response. You can check the code, you can check the headers, and you will usually use the body. That's probably usually what you're going to use is the body of the response. But you can check that you can use all these things from the response. As you see, it's using the same Elasticsearch transport library we're using on the Elasticsearch client. So if you're familiar with that, this is using the same, the same library. And other things we can see here are the version. And there's also, this is a feature sometimes when want to set the read-only status on, sometimes if we run from Docker, we see that your server is set on read-only. So we can just enable and disable read-only from the client. And let's look at, where is it? So this is our instance of Enterprise Search running from Docker locally. And the password, so the password here is still changing, but the user is different because this is the user you want to paste here, and the Elastic user has like cluster level permission, so they're different users. And as you can see, this is your welcome page for Enterprise Search. What you can do here is use either Upsearch or Workplace Search. So let's go to Upsearch first to see how that works. Oh, and there's an onboarding. If you want to just go like take it for a test, you can do sample data here, and you can just feel like you can get an instance with already useful data you can search on and all that. But we're going to skip that. We're going to just look for credentials. So Upsearch uses API key authentication, and so we're going to use this. Going to copy. You can create a new key here, like if you want a specific key for a user and you want to give them permissions for your client, you can do it from here. But we're just going to use the default private key, which has read and write access, and that's what we're going to use now. So another interesting thing from the client is we already have an Enterprise Search client, right? So we know the host is going to be the same. And so one thing we can do here is let's call this Upsearch. We already have a client, so we can do client.upsearch. And that's going to give us an instance of the Upsearch endpoints. So the stuff we would use from the client. We do need to pass in the API key for HTTP auth. So I've copied that into the clipboard. Yeah. And now I should be able to do like list. As we mentioned, the Upsearch is based on engines. So we're always going to use an engine when indexing documents or searching, because we need to say where we want to search or index documents. So I'm going to list. And as you can see, there's nothing there yet because we haven't created any engines. So yeah, let's create an engine and see how we can index documents and then search for them, and how this is going to interact with the UI, which is really cool. So I'm going to create. I have already here a few books that I preloaded, so I don't have to write it all from scratch. And first we need to do, oh, and another interesting thing is if you don't want to use, for example, I find it really useful to have like an Enterprise Search client and then using the Upsearch client from the Enterprise Search client, because I think the .help endpoint from the Enterprise Search client is really useful to know that you have the right host, the right credentials, so, and that everything's working out fine. So you can also do like an individual, let's call this individual Upsearch clients, and you wouldn't instantiate anything else. So you would do this and pass in the API key, and that would be like it would be the same. It would work the same way. It's just you would have to write the host again, and it's just two ways of doing the same. It depends on how you're going to use it, what's more useful for you. So let's create the engine name, and we have that saved. And as you can see here, we get the response that says there's no issues. It's 200, so everything's fine. And if we go here now, we see books is already there. There's no documents, but it's going to be populated now. Right, so let me paste the documents so we can index some stuff. Oh, this is lower than I thought. Okay, we have an array of documents, and now we're going to do upsearch.index documents. And we need to pass in the name every time, so it knows where we want to index this stuff. And there we go. So since we didn't specify an ID for any of the documents, Upsearch is going to generate IDs, as you can see here in the response body. And once we index something, it takes a few seconds for Upsearch to show them, but it's usually just a few seconds. So now we can see here, we have stuff that we've indexed. So this is where you can use all the stuff from Upsearch. That's really cool. So I think this is probably the coolest thing. So I'm creating a UI, like a search UI for the documents I just indexed. So generate a preview, and you get all of these just from using Upsearch. And here you can just search for stuff, and you can set different, like these filters here. You can set them in Upsearch and change them and define, like I want to filter per year, per whatever fields you have in the document. You also don't need to declare the schema for this. Once you index stuff, Upsearch is going to do its thing on Elasticsearch and decide what's the best solution for what you're indexing. And yeah, that you get all the cool stuff from Upsearch, but you can use it from your Ruby code or Python code. And you can also search from the client. So you get I think most people will use Upsearch with the UI that it provides for the Enterprise Search UI for search. But you can also do, like, let's save it into a variable. We're going to search. We're going to do the same search for Django, because I know there's at least 2 books with Django in the title. And now response.body. Let's do results. And you can, like, you get the documents back for search. Another API we have in Upsearch is multi-search. So you can pass in more than one query here, which is really cool. If you want to have like more than one search, I think this is the right. So I want to search for Django because I know there's 2 books with Django, and then there's 2 authors called Herman, I think. Results. Results. Nope. Oh, right. Because when we do multi-search, we get an array with 2 results, 1 for each search. So this one is the Django query, and this one is the the other query, the author query I did for Herman. So yeah, you can use search from here, and then you have other stuff like API logs. Oh, so API logs is a bit more complex the query because you need to do the engine name and the dates you want to check. So I'm not going to write that, and I'm going to copy it from an example because I'm going to make a mistake for sure. So you need to pass in the engine name, and the dates in which you want the logs to show. So let's save that in a variable. Yeah, it's a lot of information, but it's all the logs, and you can see that in the UI. There's API logs. You can see it here, and also you can see here the requests we've been making from the Ruby code, which is pretty cool because you get the response and what the request was, what was sent in the request. So that's pretty cool, and you get all that information in the API logs endpoint from the client itself. So that's pretty cool. And that's the basic stuff that we have for app search now. Let's take a look at workplace search now. So workplace search, as I mentioned, it's based on different sources. So you need to feed information to workplace search. And here are some of the plugins, the connectors for different services. What you need to do for the client, you need to do a custom API source. We're going to call this Ruby client source. Right. And you're going to need these two credentials. So I'm going to copy this here. We're going to create an access token variable which has this, and then we're going to create the content source key. So we need these two for authentication. So now we're going to do the same as we did before with the app search client. I'm going to use the enterprise search client I already have, and I'm going to pass in HTTP auth access token. Right. And so now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to index some documents. These are different documents. These are movies that are in the public domain. I thought just in case it would be a good shout to have no copyright issues. So let's index this. And here so in workplace search, you need to pass in the content source key in your, you have to instantiate with the access token and then pass in the content source key in every endpoint for authentication. So let's do that and pass in the document. Right? Yeah, response. 200. Okay. So that should index these documents. Now, code sources. We can go into the details, and yeah, we can see there's 9 documents. And if I go to search application here, these documents are already there for me to search. Now, here it says the connected content sources. So if I had more stuff like GitHub or a wiki or whatever, I can choose where to search for stuff. So now if I'm searching here, I'm only going to see the results from the source that I created, but you can create new sources and filter here per source. So it's really, like if you're looking for code, you would probably filter per, like, go to GitHub, don't show me Google Drive stuff, or you can just specify what you want to look for. So it's really cool. Then you have the concept of permissions and users. So you can look at those APIs from the client. Content source key, I think that's all we need. You can see the permissions, and you can add, remove, and list them. So the one thing that we are missing right now in the client for Workplace Search is the search itself, because we haven't got to that. It uses OAuth, and we haven't finished that. So the clients right now, I think that's it for the demo. Yeah. Yeah, the clients are in beta state. There's actually pre-releases for both. I'm getting to that. But yeah, you can already check them out. And this is a really basic example of how to use it. Like this is the Ruby version of how, like you would just go into your terminal, install the gem. You need to pass in the pre flag so that because it's a pre-release right now. If you don't pass this in, it's going to install the version 0 point something. That's the previous one, and I don't even know how compatible that is with the latest. It should be fine anyway, but it's not the new client. So that's an example of how to do it in Ruby. This is how you instantiate with Python, and as you can see, the code is really similar. We've been the client team has we each do our own clients on our own languages, but we do have like a similar approach to how we do things. So yeah, as you can see, the Python client is really similar, the code on how to do a basic client. And yeah, so this is how you would install each of them. We now have the what we call pre-release, because we're aware that not everything is 100% tested in the pre-releases, or some features are missing, like Workplace Search, search for Workplace Search. But we're going to be releasing a beta version with the release of the Elasticstack 7.10, and that's going to happen really soon. So yeah, once we have everything ready to release the beta versions when 7.10 comes out, and that's happening anytime now. And there are more languages coming. I'm not going to mention which ones because I don't really know when they're coming. But as I told you, our team has developers for every language, so we're going to be releasing more and working on new languages and new clients. And yeah, here are some links, the GitHub repos for both of them. And I linked to the Enterprise Search free quick start guides. I found these guides really, really cool because they give you a really fast way of figuring out what Enterprise Search is and how you can use Subsearch and Workplace Search, and it's free, so you can just check that out. And also the free trial for Elastic Cloud if you want to test that too as well. And if you would like to know more, you can visit our Discuss server where like there's lots of people there from Elastic and from the community, so it's a really cool place. That's my Twitter or GitHub handle. You can ask me for stuff there, like if you want to know more or if you have particular questions about the client, you can ask me there. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks very much for coming. And if you have any questions.
Seth has a question. You mentioned API keys. Are those API keys different than the Elasticsearch API keys? Because you probably mentioned them in the context of the App Search and the Enterprise Search client.
Right. So yeah, the API keys are the it's the App Search. Sorry. App Search API keys. So these API keys are going to authenticate with the App Search interface. So yeah, because also it's generated for App Search here. So yeah, it's not the same as far as I know. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think the Elasticsearch nowadays has an own dedicated API to create API keys for users, which you're usually using for something like Beats. by using the API keys instead of a username and password. And those are completely different keys. Like the private key, as the name says, should be completely private. The search key, for example, can also be configured in a browser, I think, and be used in there. That's, for example, what we do on the Elastic.co website for our official documentation. We also search everything live there and basically are using App Search, which then in turn searches Elasticsearch. So it's still secure behind the App Search middleware to make sure we can search everything. So this is the kind of very different keys, very different API keys. Thanks for the question, Tess. All right, there's another question. Does the client provide access to some search analytics like queries, hits, clicks, etc.?
Yes, yeah, those there's there is some analytics endpoints. I didn't prepare them for the demo, but there is some like queries and clicks are in the API. Oh yeah, Seth is writing get count analytics, for example. Yeah, I should have prepared that because that's an interesting part of the enterprise search UI. But yeah, they're there. They're like you can use them from the client.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the biggest app search features because you have a search engine where you get immediate analytics for free to figure out how your users are actually using your data, what they're searching for. And if you want to improve your search, like this is absolutely crucial. Yeah, thank you. I think we don't have any more questions. There's one comment from Thess. There are signed search keys for app search, which the client supports in generating, that can be restricted to specific queries and fields. So you can kind of reduce the scope of a query so you don't accidentally search in fields that are not supposed to be searched, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, one more thing, maybe I have missed that one, but if people want to test those clients out, can they check out the hopefully extremely verbose documentation somewhere already, or should they just check out the Git repository and go from there?
Oh, well, that's a good question because so right now, well, the GitHub repository has a lot of documentation on the README, but we're also working together with the enterprise search team to improve the documentation because I know there's been an update and there's going to be more updates when 7.10, when the stack releases. So there's going to be more documentation. Right now, yeah, because enterprise search is already documented pretty well on the Elastic website, but to see exactly what the clients can do, I would go, I think right now the READMEs would be the best, like the more verbose documentation right now, but we are working on those, like we're working on the READMEs right now. So they will be improved. If you go now and then you check it after release, it's going to be even better. But we're adding stuff all the time. And also as we test stuff, as we add integration tests to, because we have a common integration test document where we say, okay, we need to test these things. And then we also document, okay, we just check the create engine endpoint. This is how we test it and this is how it works. So we have the documentation on the README. But we are working on that with the enterprise search team. So it's going to get even better than what we have now.
Take care, everyone, and have a good evening, rest of your day, wherever you are in these times.